Welcome to Homeschool is a Work of Heart. I'm Melissa Webb, and after years in the classroom and years homeschooling and supporting those in home education, and even more years creating curriculum for families like yours, I have learned this. Homeschooling isn't about perfection. It is about purpose. And this podcast is here to encourage you, to guide you, and to remind you that what you're doing truly matters. Are you ready to get started? Let's go. Hello, everyone. How are you doing on this lovely summer day? I hope you're doing great. I hope you're finding ways to stay cool and enjoy your time with your kids, all the great things. That's what I want for you. And this week, I wanted to do something very different. I feel like we're all kind of in a different vibe with summertime and less structure and more togetherness in a whole other way, if that makes sense. And I had recently heard on a podcast these girlfriends talking about this best friend quiz that's kind of making the rounds this summer. Have you seen this or heard about this? In the podcast I was listening to, these two girlfriends were laughing at each other's answers, and I found myself laughing right along with them. One of the questions was, so where would you find me in a grocery store? Now that's something hopefully your best friend would know about you. Are you already thinking about somebody and where you would find them in the grocery store? So the one friend had said, oh, I know where I would find you. I would find you in the baking aisle, specifically around the chocolate chips, because you would probably be wanting to make your great homemade chocolate chip cookies. And she agreed. She's like, oh my gosh, you know me so well. That's exactly where I would be. I'd be deciding, do I want dark chocolate or do I want semi-sweet or do I want the minis? So they're just kind of giggling about that. And then the other friend says, this is easy for me too. I know I would find you in the produce aisle, in the organic section, around the fruit. And her friend's like, no, you wouldn't. I would be down by the checkout area tapping my foot, waiting for you because you always take forever in the grocery store. And so they're just laughing. It was one question, but it opened up this whole conversation. And there was a whole list of questions. They were simple. They would get a bit silly, but it was totally conversational and fun. And then that got me thinking, how well do we really know the people sitting around our own dinner table? I mean, besties are a blast. Love my besties, but family always comes first. And while we may assume we know our children because we live with them day in and day out, people are not static. We are constantly growing and changing and discovering new interests, letting go of old things. That little girl of yours who maybe once loved horses, does she now dream of becoming a marine biologist, perhaps? And what about your son who said he would never eat fish, but now when you think about it, you're like, you know, he would pick sushi anytime we offered to go out to dinner. We change. We all change. Even we as parents are not the same people we were 5 years ago. And that's a great thing for us to point out to our children. People change. It's good. We're supposed to. And I believe that one of the greatest things that we can do as a family is remain curious about one another. So this week, I came up with a fun family freebie for you. It really doesn't have anything to do with writing, although there will be some writing of answers, I suppose, but it's really about conversation and thinking. And before I even recorded this episode, I decided to try this with my son. We have 3 boys, only one still lives at home, so he gets to help me out with things like this. And when we did this, I knew I was going to nail some of them because I just feel like I know him so well. But a couple actually surprised me. And it brought up some great conversations. It took longer than just, hey, quickly answer these. It's not meant to be timed or sped through. And it reminded me that even after all these years together, 22 to be exact, there's still more that I can discover about this amazing young man that I am so fortunate to call my son. Conversations are healthy at any age, at any stage of life, and having these conversations shows you care, shows you are curious. You want to know what matters to the people that you love most. So, I don't have a best friends quiz for you, but I would like to invite your family to try something that I just created, and my name for it is the Family Curiosity Project. I don't know. I couldn't come up with much better than that. That's probably something I should have asked AI to help me with, but it's just all around curiosity. Name it whatever you will. And as I mentioned, I created a quick free PDF that you can simply download and then print out. It'll be in today's show notes. If you get my Wow, It's Friday weekly email, that copy will be there for you on Friday. If you're wondering, whoa, what do you do every Friday? I do send out updates, and if there's freebies or just things going on, I'll send you the link for that as well. I'll put it in the show notes if you want to sign up for that. Anyway, you can print a copy for your family, make multiple copies, or don't copy anything. Just simply listen today, and you can jot down any of the questions that I came up with that you would like to use. You may not like all of my questions. You are welcome to make up your own questions as well. I came up with 15. So again, use some of them, use all of them. That's totally fine. You may feel like that's too many for your family or for the age that your children are. Even 5 or 6 could spark wonderful conversations around the dinner table or on a drive to the beach or sitting together at a campground. Just use your imagination. Have some fun with this. Now, here's how I would recommend playing, but you make it your own. How I see doing this is I would print one of these for all the people in my family. So that going back many years, 5 of us around the table, I would print 5 of them and everybody would get their own. Now, on their own, they would fill out their answers about themselves first. That becomes their answer key. Then, after everybody's filled theirs out with their own answers about themselves, then you could take turns. Now, in our family, it was always the youngest got to go first. And so I did this with our youngest, as a matter of fact. And Derek asked me, okay, Mom, what do you think is my least favorite chore? So again, remember, he had already filled it out. And now I get to answer what I think it is. Now, if you were doing this with the whole family, each person could make a guess and you could just let the conversation flow. People could explain why they picked the answer that they picked. I think that's part of the fun. Now, for this one, I was confident. I was very confident. I was like, oh, this one's easy, Derek. Your least favorite chore would be yard work. We actually live on 5 acres, so when our kids did much of any yard work, it was usually having to do with pulling weeds and lifting things and moving things. And it was more hard labor than probably what some other kids had to do. But I thought for sure that was the answer, and I was wrong. Now he said, oh, yeah, no, there was a time I really did dislike that. And he said, but you know what it is? It was then and it still is I cannot stand having to hang up my clean shirts. I was like, what? I mean, that turned into a whole conversation. He actually said that hanging up his clean shirts on hangers to put in his closet were the bane of his existence. I mean, I laughed. That is so funny. I had no idea. So when he was much younger, My kids didn't start doing their own laundry until they were in middle school. So when they were younger and I would do their laundry, I would put it in their rooms, and there were some things that they put in their dresser drawers, but shirts, I always liked them to be hung up so they wouldn't be all wrinkly. And I guess he really despised having to do that. And he said he is better with it now. It's not such a big deal, but he said he'd still rather do yard work because now he gets to use like the weed whacker and things like that. And he'd always rather do that and be outdoors than have to take care of putting away all his clean laundry. So I thought that was awesome. Anyway, there are a total of 15 questions. As I mentioned, do one at a time, maybe. The next person then says, okay, guess what my least favorite chore was? You could do that. You could have somebody do their whole list at one time. There is not a set procedure. I literally just made this up today. I was like, oh, I like that besties quiz. I'm going to come up with one for the family. Now, Derek did do all of them with me. And I have to say, I so enjoyed our time together. I was so glad I came up with this idea merely because I loved the conversation I had with my son. He's busy. He's working 40 hours a week. He has his friends. He has a girlfriend. He is gone most of the time. I barely get to see him. And so this was really a special little moment when I was like, hey, would you help me out? And we reflected on the past and his childhood. We talked about the future. It was awesome. He's awesome. Anyway, I digress. Here are the other questions. So like I said, you could just jot some down, grab paper, grab pen. If you like any of them, write them down. You can always pause this. You can get the PDF, whatever works for you. But here you go. So other questions. What is my dream vacation? What's one food I would never order? What almost always makes me laugh? What's my favorite book or movie of all time? If I could do anything I wanted tomorrow, what would I do? What animal am I most like? What's something I was afraid of when I was younger? What's one thing I wish I were better at doing? What's one thing that makes me feel unique? What's one thing I've changed my mind about? If I could have a superpower, what would I choose? Which snack or dessert disappears fastest when I'm around? And finally, what's one thing I hope our family remembers about me? Do you love those? I especially love that last question. I have to say, I really love that one. And the reason is that it's not about getting an answer right. I think that one allows us to hear our child's heart. Now for Derek, he said, wow, it's a good question. And he said, I think I'd hope that people remembered how much I loved my life and adventure and doing the fun and exciting things and making the most of the life I have. And that is absolutely Derek through and through. I should have thought of that. But you know what else I know about Derek? He is so lovable. And he asked me, what did you say for that one, Mom? And I said, I wrote down that I thought you would want us to remember just how much you love every single one of us. You make us all feel very special. And he said, oh, I really like that too. That's sweet. Sometimes, my friends, the smallest questions can open the biggest conversations. Are you a little excited now to do this with your kids? I really hope you are. I think as homeschool parents especially, but parents in general, don't we spend a lot of time asking the practical questions like, hey, did you feed the dog? Or did you practice your piano today? Who's taking out the trash? And sure, of course, those questions matter. Life keeps moving forward. But I just wonder if this week we might also ask a few questions simply because we're interested in the children, the tweens, the teens, those people who we are so very blessed to call our family. Nope, there's no lesson to teach. There's no problem to solve with this. This is just an opportunity to pour out some love as we remain present in the moment we are given, realizing our children are still evolving. They are still discovering who they are, whatever the age that is. So what matters to them? What bothers them? What delights them? I think it would be fun to find out. How lucky are we? We have the privilege of discovering right alongside our children as they continue to learn about themselves. So this weekend, whether you are driving out to see grandma or eating popsicles on the front porch or roasting marshmallows in the backyard, whatever you're doing, I hope you give my family curiosity project a try. I'd love to hear how it worked for you. I think you might laugh, but I also think you might be surprised. And you could even learn something new about someone that you have been loving for a really long time. I just hope you ask a question that sparks a conversation that's worth remembering. The people that we love are not just writing the story of their own lives. When we get to be parents, we're invited to be in their lives, reading each new chapter that they are writing. And that's pretty special. Have a great weekend, everybody. I'll see you next week. Right on, my friends. And that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining me. And hey, if you are feeling stretched thin and you would love some support with teaching writing, I offer programs designed to make that part of homeschooling easier and more enjoyable for both you and your child. I also have free resources on my website, so please be sure to check those things out and subscribe to the podcast. You do not have to do this alone. Right on.